Have you ever looked at someone in power and thought, how on earth did they get there? I mean, really, why is it that the dumbest people often lead the smartest ones? You've seen it. The boss who can't lead. The so-called visionary who talks big, but can't build anything. The loud politician with nothing to say. You see them rise. You watch them win. And somewhere deep inside, you feel that mix of confusion and quiet frustration. This isn't an accident. It's not a glitch. It's a design. And it's working exactly as intended. And by the end of this video, I will expose the psychological tricks foolish leaders use to hijack your brain, so you can spot them instantly and protect your own power from being manipulated. So stay with me, because once you see what's really going on behind the curtain, you'll never look at leadership or your own potential the same way again. There's one brutal truth Niccolo Machiavelli figured out centuries ago. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. And the world still runs on that exact illusion. Because we don't follow substance, we follow signals. We follow what looks like power, feels like certainty, sounds like leadership. And 99% of the time, that's not the smartest person in the room. It's the one who knows how to perform smart. Elizabeth Holmes. She had no working product. But with a black turtleneck, a deep voice, and Silicon Valley buzzwords, she sold $1 billion lie. The world believed her, not because she was right, but because she looked the part. Now compare that to Nikola Tesla, a man decades ahead of his time. He invented the tech that powers your home today, but he died alone, broke, ignored. Why? Because he didn't know how to package genius. Meanwhile, Thomas Edison, who borrowed more ideas than he built, mastered the media. So guess who ended up in the history books? That's the power of illusion, and we're still falling for it. We confuse loud with clear. We mistake boldness for certainty. But real intelligence, it hesitates, questions. It says, let's slow down and think. And most people, they don't want that. They want fast. They want simple. They want sure, even if it's dead wrong. Psychologists have a name for this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It means the people who know the least are often the most confident, and the ones who know the most doubt themselves, because they actually understand how complex things are. Our brains reward simplicity. The moment we hear something clear, bold, and easy to grasp, we get a hit of dopamine. Feels true. So we stop thinking, and we start following. We don't follow the best. We follow the clearest. And that is the first step toward ruin. But illusion isn't the scariest part. No, it's what happens after they get power that really starts the fire. If you're still watching right now, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Here's the next layer of this sickness. The foolish don't just rise. They defend the throne by poisoning the ladder. Let me say that again in plain terms. Once they get power, they make damn sure no one smarter, stronger, or more capable ever climbs up behind them. Machiavelli said it with chilling clarity. Judge a ruler by the people they keep around. So, who do they keep around? Not truth-tellers, not challengers, not the ones who ask hard questions or point out flaws. They surround themselves with yes-men, with flatterers, with loyal shadows who never dare to shine, because loyalty is safer than competence. See, a smart advisor might spot the cracks, might threaten their image, might rise too fast, too close. So what do? They build echo chambers, environments where the only sound is applause, where silence is rewarded and honesty is punished. Commodus, the Roman emperor, inherited a mighty empire, then filled his court with cowards and sycophants. Result? Collapse. Robert Mugabe, once a liberator, later a tyrant who replaced brilliant minds with blind loyalty. What followed? Institutional decay, economic death. The pattern repeats again and again. And it's not always ancient history or foreign headlines. Sometimes it's right there in your office, your church, your school. Once incompetence takes root, it stops being an accident. It becomes design. Because they don't just get power, they build walls to keep it. They create systems that punish thinking and reward obedience. And that's where the rot begins. But in a minute, I'll show you the one psychological trick they all use to look smarter than they really are. The simple, the sneaky, and you've definitely seen it in action. But first, let me ask you something. Why do we keep letting this happen? Because deep down, we don't always want the truth. We want certainty. We want someone who sounds like they know the way, even when they don't. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever trusted someone, not because they were right, but because they made you feel safe? Maybe it was their tone, their confidence, the way they never hesitated. That's the trap. I'll fix it. Always sounds better than, this is going to be messy. Our brains are wired for simplicity. Certainty calms us. Complexity, it stresses us out. That's called cognitive closure. And here's what makes it dangerous. A Yale study found that even math geniuses will ignore basic numbers if those numbers clash with what they already believe. Their brains didn't search for truth. They searched for comfort. Now ask yourself again, have you ever followed someone not because they made sense, but because they made you feel certain? Machiavelli saw this coming. He said, "The great majority are satisfied with appearances. And those appearances, they're a playground for manipulators. Because the people most willing to say anything to gain power are often the ones least worthy of it. And yet, we hand them the microphone." Now let's talk about something that's hard to admit. Why do the good ones lose? Why do the people with morals, with vision, with integrity so often get outplayed? It's because the more ethical you are, the more you pause. You reflect. You weigh the cost. You ask, is this right? And in a game where power rewards speed, that hesitation becomes a weakness. A prince must learn how not to be good. That wasn't sarcasm. That was survival strategy. Because while the moral person is thinking, the ruthless one is already acting. Lies are fast. Manipulation works. Fake promises are easy to sell because they sound exactly like hope. And in a world desperate for hope, people buy fast. A study from the University of British Columbia found that individuals with psychopathic traits, but just enough charm, rise faster in corporate structures. Why? Because they know how to play people. They know how to say what others want to hear, and never lose sleep after. Think about that. In our culture, results get rewarded. Not character, not wisdom, not honesty. Cicero warned Rome about Caesar. He begged them to see the danger. They ignored him. They killed Cicero. And not long after, Caesar burned Rome. This is the brutal truth. When the worst people rise, they don't just play the game. They rewrite the rules. Rules that punish the honest. Rules that reward the illusion. Rules that say, if you care too much, you lose. But if you're still here right now, you're already ahead of 99% of people. Because most never stop long enough to ask who they're really following or why. And that matters, because what comes next is darker than deception. So if this is resonating, don't just watch. Hit the like button and subscribe so YouTube knows this is the kind of truth that needs to be heard. You're not just consuming content, you're becoming more aware than the system expects. When the wrong people rise, the system stops correcting itself and starts protecting them. It's like this: a restaurant where the chef never tastes the food. The staff's too scared to say anything. The customers stop complaining. And pretty soon, everyone's eating garbage while pretending it's gourmet. That's what happens when a power structure begins to rot. And it always follows the same four patterns. 1. No feedback equals no growth. Truth becomes dangerous, so people stop saying it. 2. Centralized power equals no checks. The higher you go, the fewer people can call out what's wrong, which means the mistakes grow bigger and stay hidden longer. 3. Information gets manipulated. Failures are repackaged as success. Numbers are dressed up. Language is sanitized, and the public claps, not realizing they've been fooled. 4. Short-term wins get rewarded. Forget substance. All that matters is the next announcement, the next viral moment, the next illusion of progress. Leaders don't need to be right. They just need to sound right, long enough to get away with it. That's when truth dies, and image becomes everything, because the system learns to reward survival, not substance. Style, not wisdom. Confidence, not competence. And you know what that costs us? Everything. An IBM study found that narcissistic CEOs rise 3 times faster than their peers. Not because they're better leaders, but because they're better performers. They know how to charm a boardroom, how to deflect blame, how to weaponize silence. So let me ask you, how many systems do you know that punish truth and promote silence? Maybe it's your workplace, maybe your school, maybe your government. When the structure starts rewarding the illusion, truth becomes a threat, and anyone who speaks it gets pushed out. It's not hopeless. There is a way to fight back, and it starts with you. So now you're awake to the game. You've seen how power rewards illusion, how the loudest person in the room often drowns out the wisest. You don't have to play their game to beat it. You just have to stop falling for the performance. Start with this intellectual humility. If someone sounds certain, ask yourself, do they know? Or do they just sound like they do? Loud doesn't mean right, and quiet doesn't mean wrong. Next, discernment. Don't just scroll. Don't just absorb. Process. Ask, who benefits if I believe this? Because not every opinion deserves your energy. Not every headline deserves your reaction. And not every leader deserves your loyalty. Then comes the one that separates the strong from the crowd. Philosophical reflection. That means backing up from the chaos and thinking longer than a click. Where is this going? What am I being trained to ignore? What kind of person am I becoming by staying silent? Because silence isn't neutral. It's a vote. And if you don't choose truth, someone else will choose for you. You don't need a crown to shape a kingdom. You don't have to lead millions to shift the tide. You just have to stop letting fools lead you. And when you do that, when you decide to think instead of follow, you take your power back. Because in the end, it is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. If you made it this far, it means this message hit something real. So do one simple thing to keep it alive. Subscribe to the channel and like this video as a sign that you refuse to follow blindly, and you're ready to lead with truth. Comment this to claim it. I see through the noise. I choose truth. Then share this with someone who needs to wake up. Because the more of us that see clearly, the harder it becomes for the foolish to rise. Thanks for watching.